Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in on the Monday after show. The San Francisco 49ers got punched in the mouth by the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's face it, it was not a good showing. I was there, I was at Levi's Stadium. We're going to talk about the energy or lack thereof, the miscues, the issues, and where the San Francisco 49ers go from here. But in the meantime, you already know we're going to keep the vibes up while we talk about this team that continues to frustrate us. But you already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat. Let's get through it. Therapy session coming in. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Man, when you talk about a tough loss, that was a tough loss. And not because the Kansas City Chiefs, they come in. We already know they're a well-coached team. They have arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. It was going to be it was going to be an uphill battle the entire time. That's not the frustrating part. It's not the Chiefs beating the 49ers that's frustrating. It's the 49ers beating the 49ers. And it's a continuous thing. It's not a one-off situation. It's not a situation where the San Francisco 49ers come out and just like, man, we didn't execute. We had penalties. We didn't do our job. And hey, we'll wash it and we'll move to the next. No, this is becoming a problem. This is becoming who they are. We talk about who is the San Francisco 49ers identity. What is their identity offensively, defensively, overall as a whole? Right now, their identity is beating themselves, and that is becoming a real problem. That is becoming something that this fan base is not going to stand for. We can go out, we can lose to a superior team by trying to execute and play the best ball imaginable. And hey, sometimes it's just not enough. Sometimes you get there and it's just like, listen, we didn't have our best stuff today, right? We didn't have our best stuff today. No, that's not why this team is losing. There is something going on here that it's just, I don't even know how to put my finger on it. I'm sitting there in the stadium. The 49ers go up 10-0. Levi's is electric. Everyone is hyped. The 2012 team is there. They're playing Tony Montana on the opening kickoff. Over down the right sideline, you have the entire 2012 San Francisco 49ers going insane. You have Jim Harbaugh, Justin Smith, Patrick Willis doing the foghorn at the beginning of the game. The vibes were electric. But after that 10-0 run, the vibes disappeared. Why did the vibes disappear? Not because the San Francisco 49ers fan base can't do it or isn't there for it. It's because the way this team plays, it makes it extremely difficult to get behind them and get excited because they make mistake after mistake. We're going to talk about it all. I got to get it off my chest. It was a tough go. It was a tough go yesterday. But to make me feel better, smash that like button. I'd appreciate it. We already got Mumbo dropping a super chat on the he says another episode of Misery Monday. The two plays on 3rd and long cost us 14 points, and Jimmy throwing an interception in the red zone cost us 7. Those 21 points were the difference in the game. Pain. Don't forget that the Kansas City Chiefs left 7 points off the board at the end of the half. They scored a touchdown. They scored a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone. But Jet McKinnon blocks Nick Bosa low, negates the touchdown, and then they go to kick a field goal, and they miss the field goal. That game should have been even more out of hand. The 49ers got lucky by having the Chiefs completely miss points going into the half, keeping it somewhat manageable. yet still could not take advantage of the gifts that they were given. Um, this is becoming a problem. Now, is there room for improvement? Is there room for getting back on track? Of course. This isn't a doom and gloom show. I think there are plenty of opportunities for correction, but that comes from within themselves. That is something that they have to look into a mirror and say, "What the hell are we doing, guys? Who are we? What do we want to be as a football team this year? What is our identity? Is our identity that we just don't know? What is it? Who are we?" And those are going to be the questions that are going to continue to be magnified throughout the season. Obviously, there's a path forward. There is still room. There is still room for this team to get back on track. There is still room for this team to make the playoffs. There is still room for this team to get on a a good pace, right? So this we're not talking about it from that standpoint. We're just talking about it from what we've seen through the first 7 weeks and just identifying, calling it out, what it is, what we're seeing, what we all see. And it's not good. We can't see an offense with this much firepower, this many weapons, just not perform. And it's becoming to be a real head scratcher. It's becoming to be a situation where it's like, what does this team need to do? What is it? What magical potion do they all need to drink to get on? I don't know. Is it coaching? Is it execution? Is it play on the field? What is it? I don't think there's a clear cut answer, but we'll do our best today to try to identify what those things are. And again, I think we're all upset. And I think it's fair to be upset. I think it's fair to ask Kyle, ask Jimmy, ask Mike McGlinchey, ask the defense, what the hell is going on? I think that's fair today. And we'll get back on track, but we'll continue to talk about it. And again, thank you, Mumbo, for the super chat. I really do appreciate you. But yeah, the super chat explains a lot. Missed opportunities, self-inflicted wounds is becoming the identity of the San Francisco 49ers. And that to me is frustrating. It's different if you go out and you play your game and it's just one of those losses where, hey, listen, the other team had a better day in the office. They had better stuff. And, we tried our hardest. We left all our plays out there on the field and it just wasn't good enough. I can live with that. I can't. I'm having a hard time living with what the 49ers are putting out there on the field right now. 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. Not good. Scott Hill says, Brad, I'm worried about our defense, not the number one defense, in my opinion. Something needs to happen. Well, they are missing Eric Armstead right now. They are missing that true pressure from the interior. They really are. They're not like Patrick Mahomes yesterday had all the time in the world. When it came to whatever play they were executing, they were blocking it up. They were blocking it up. And it was just like, man, the defense has no answers. They have no answers. The offensive line, the skill positions, they were blocking everything. And these defenders were not being able to get off blocks, shed blocks, affect running lanes. It was bad. Mecole Hardman scored 3 touchdowns, ladies and gentlemen. Mecole Hardman scored 3 touchdowns. All of them were on sweeps. And I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, this defense has no idea that they're giving the ball to Mecole Hardman. They just had no clue. And I'm just like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, how is this so easy? How is this so easy? And credit to the Chiefs. They were the superior blocking team. They were doing a great job of getting hats on bodies and doing their assignments. That's what they were doing. And the 49ers couldn't stop them because of that. So, yeah, yesterday was tough. Yesterday didn't look like we were looking at the number one defense in the NFL. But let's face it, Charvarius Ward coming back from injury, you probably could make the case that Charvarius Ward forced himself into that game because let's face it, that's his old team. He wanted to play the Chiefs, and he wanted to be available and be there for his team. So I can, and he had a, tough day in the office, for sure. But I can at least respect him getting into the game. You know, he's a cornerback. He has an injured groin. Dude makes his money in that fluid hip region. So that's a tough injury to have as a cornerback. Um, so I can at least respect him getting out there on the field and trying to do his best because without him, it was Ambry Thomas, Diamador Lenore. That's tough. It was just a tough go, man. 49ers weren't getting any pressure on Patrick Mahomes for the most part. Patrick Mahomes goes 25 for 34, 423 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had the really nice interception early from Talanoa Hufanga. But really, after that first quarter, it just felt like the 49ers disappeared. And that's, I think, what we're going to continue to talk about for the majority of the day because I know you guys are just like me. That was tough. That was really tough to go sit there and watch that game. Because it's not like one thing to identify. It's not like Jimmy played bad, the offensive line played bad, the defensive line played bad, the cornerbacks played bad, the special teams played bad. Like it's more than that. It's more than that. And when we talk about it's more than that, that conversation starts with Kyle Shanahan. Listen, I love Kyle. I think Kyle's a great coach. I think Kyle is a great mind. I think Kyle knows how to build staffs. I think Kyle understands what he needs to do to build rosters and things like that for the most part. But when you're having this level of dysfunction from like a holistic standpoint, I don't know if that makes sense when I say holistic. I mean, like there's an energy to football. Momentum, energy, it exists, it's real, it's tangible. You can't quantify it, but it's there. And when I'm sitting there in that stadium, and that's the best part about being in the stadium is you can feel it. You can feel momentum swings. You can feel energy shifting. You can sense it. It's there in front of you. Again, how do you quantify it? You can't put a stat on it. You can't measure it, but it's a feel. And I could feel it. I could feel it just slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping. And I don't know where you fix that. And I don't know if that's Kyle. I don't know if that's a completely new offensive staff that the 49ers are working with compared to last year. Again, no Mike McDaniels, no Wes Welker, no John Embry. Who else? They lost a lot of staff last year. And Jimmy said it and I wish someone asked to follow up. I wish one of the beat reporters asked to follow up because Jimmy Garoppolo said there's a lot of new coaches when he was talking about, the comparisons of last year to this year. The 49ers started out 3-5 last year, were able to get to NFC Championship. So that's one of the talking points going into this week. Well, the San Francisco 49ers have been in this specific spot before. They've been kind of counted out. They've been in a situation where they have had their backs against the wall. And they asked him about that. And one of the things that he mentioned was coaching. A lot of new coaches this year. I wish someone asked to follow up on that. What do you mean by that? What does that mean to you? Is that a Mike McDaniels thing? Is that a Rich Scangarello thing? What does that mean? Kyle's still here. Chris Forster's still here. What does that mean? So, I don't know. Today's a weird day. Today's a weird day because I think if we take a step back, the 49ers were to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs in a way where they put their best foot forward. Again, tried, scrapped, clawed. Uh, we're not that I don't think we're that upset. We know this was a measuring stick game. We talked about it all week. But the measuring stick tells me that if this is how the San Francisco 49ers are going to play for the rest of the year, then it's about time to maybe temper some expectations because they don't feel like they're in a good spot. It's weird. It's weird. Obviously a lot of guys didn't make plays, but there also were plays that were made. George Kittle, I think, had a really good day in the office. 6 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had 7 receptions for 82 yards. Rayward McLeod had his first career touchdown of the day. Christian McCaffrey came in and looked good. Considering he showed up on Friday and is suited up playing on Sunday, he had 8 carries for 38 yards. That's 4.8. That's pretty damn good. He also had a couple receptions, 2 receptions for 24 yards. Again, considering the circumstances and what it is, it's not bad. And you could see Christian McCaffrey is going to be a really good piece for this offense. He's really going to be able to bring a different dynamic level that we're just not getting from Deebo Samuel right now. So I think Christian is going to be able to do a good job in that regard. Um, and he's going to continue to get better. So I'm not too worried about that. But the offensive line struggled. I still got to go back and watch the tape. I haven't watched the tape yet, but I did see, and you guys know, I'm a big fan of Mike McGlinchey, the person. I know not a lot of people are a big fan of Mike McGlinchey, the player. And, Mike McGlinchey, the player, had a very rough day in the office. Again, I haven't watched it yet, but I do remember on that particular play, they lined Chris Jones on the right tackle, um, beats Mike, strips the ball, turnover. Not a good play. Mike came off the field and he was angry. And the way he was talking to it, because I was watching him, I just wanted to see like what his body language was like, and he was angry, and what he was kept gesturing was that he kept getting hit in the neck, and he kept going like this. So regardless, just wasn't a good day. But he was visibly frustrated coming off the field. But yeah, not a good day. Jimmy Garoppolo got sacked a couple times. Felt like we had another Jimmy Garoppolo self-inflicted safety. We had the Jimmy Garoppolo self-inflicted interception that took points off the board after the 49ers were gifted a muffed punt. It's just tough, man. And I don't think Jimmy, I know a lot of people, again, we know what Fridays are, or Mondays after are. Mondays after are blame. After losses, who do we blame, right? You go down the list. This guy didn't play good. This guy had a bad play here. This guy had a bad play here. So I understand. It's not my first rodeo. But again, I don't think it's boiled down to the plays, if that makes sense. Like, yes, terrible play from multiple people on the day yesterday. It's not just one person. But I think the question that we're having about this team is much broader. It's much more complex than execution, much more complex than personnel. There's just something in the water. It just doesn't feel right. I'm a big feel guy. Um, Again, one of the reasons why I feel like am I'm not gonna say I'm great, but I'm decent at scouting. One of the things that I interpret that goes into scouting is feel of a person, like what makes them who they are, the kind of psychological, physiological aspects of a person that it's not just their skill set, it's what makes them tick, their body language, those types of things. You can get a feel for what kind of person uh, is under the helmet. Well, if you take that same type of ideology and you assess it to the team feels the team feels like they're not in a good spot. I don't know what it is. Again, I can't quantify it. I can't put a statistical like quantification on it, but there's just something that feels off and it's felt off all year. And again, it's been a weird year. Started with Trey Lance, you go to Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know, man. It's just been weird. It's been weird year. Does that mean this team is stuck? Does that mean they're done? Does that mean put a fork in them? It's over? No, it doesn't. There is room to correct this. There is room to get on the same page and start working because they have the talent. I don't think that's the question. They get healthy, they get their guys back, they have the talent, they have the defense. We know what the defense is capable of. Yes, they had a bad day in the office, but they played against a really good offensive coordinator, and they had a or really good coach in Andy Reid, and of course Patrick Mahomes, really good. So you're gonna have a tough day in the office if you're not playing uh, buttoned up football. So it's not over. I'm not ready to send this team to the morgue. I'm not ready to blow everything up. But I think what we're seeing is that there is questions to be had. There are critiques to be made and corrections that need to happen. And what that is, that's on them. That's inside the building. I'm not in there. I'm not talking to the coaches. I'm not breaking down film with them. So I'm not going to be the one to tell you what it is. But they know. They know there's something off. They know there's something off and they need to fix it. Rome said they're already in the gulag. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. They're in the gulag right now. They got to win the gulag, and then they got to get that second oppie to go out there and win the battle royale. So I agree. I think that's fair. I think this team is in the gulag right now. They got a couple more opportunities. It's like the gulag right now is next week versus the Rams, a division game. They have to win this game if they want any chance at getting into the playoffs. And they got to win this game to get into the bye with good momentum. And then the second half of the season starts after the bye. I think that's actually a really good. I think that's a really good way to put it, Ramon or Rome. Um, I do. They're in the gulag, and their opponent that they have to beat to get back into it, to get a second op, to go try to be in that final circle and win the battle royale. They got to beat the Rams next week. Again, if you're not familiar, this is definitely Call of Duty Warzone references. So if you don't play Warzone, I do not blame you if you don't understand. But if you don't understand, I'll try to break it down. You go into the Warzone, 150 people drop into one map. You're trying to be the last crew standing, whether it's whatever. You get killed, you go to the gulag. 1v1, you win it, you're back in it. You get put back into the map, but that's it. Last chance. You lose, you're done. Game over. Now I don't think it's that dramatic, but I do think there's I like the I like the tie-in. I'm not gonna lie. I do. Chris Casperson says when Kyle pulled CMC off the field in the red zone, you could hear the boos from the stadium on TV. Even the announcers commented on it. I think this was before Jimmy threw the interception. What was your take? Um, I didn't necessarily hear the boos from taking him out because, you know, I can't speak to one, what Kyle's trying to do in that type of personnel. And again, CMC's so new. Like I just cannot, I can't like go to the point of booing someone for taking a guy out who maybe doesn't have specific role um, in a certain red zone package. Um, or maybe I just wasn't even paying attention to it. But I don't know. I'm not. Let's see. Uh, my take is I don't think that was the issue. If fans, wanted CMC in the red zone, I can understand it. Um, but if Kyle decided to make that decision, that's not. I don't know. That's not the problem to me. The problem isn't CMC being in the red zone. That's my perception of it. I can understand why fans would want that. I can understand why you want your new toy to be in there in that situation. Um, but if I have to put my football hat on and take my fan hat off, my fan hat, of course, my fan hat wants to CMC get an opportunity to score a touchdown. But if I have to put my football cap on, who I don't know what Christian McCaffrey is. Maybe that particular thing that they're trying to execute, Christian wasn't a part of that. He didn't have enough time yet. So I'm not going to hold that against him too much. But I was also in my zone to getting content. So maybe I didn't hear it. We need a Senzu bean for Trey and Eman. That's funny. But yeah, man, that's a Dragon Ball Z reference. And if you didn't know, a Senzu bean, they are mystical beans with immense rejuvenation properties. So nice, nice reference. Like again, I feel like we could go back and forth. We could go back and forth about the plays that weren't had, the mistakes that were made. That's that's to me the least of my issues with this team. It's the least of my issues. It's just something's off. Something's off. I don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it. I just know it's there. Um, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if this team doesn't have confidence in itself to be able to withstand, to execute, because it's just so weird. It's a weird situation. So the hope is, let's face it, if we are going to pull from last year and we are going to pull from the 2021 season when they started 3-5, you could say the same thing. They just fell off, getting boat raced by, Colt McCoy and the Cardinals. They didn't feel like they had the juice. They didn't feel like they felt confident in themselves, you know? Getting beat week 4, against a really bad Seattle Seahawks team at home, didn't feel confident, didn't feel like they had the juice, but we've seen they can correct it. But I think the problem that I'm having is the consistency being in that spot. Like, at what point do we just it feels like in heading into year 6, we shouldn't be in this spot anymore. There should be a defined kind of way of operating, and this feels like the defined kind of way of operating. I also think Kyle Shanahan owns probably the worst stat in football right now. 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have a 1-29 record when trailing by 3 plus points entering the fourth quarter. I think that's probably the worst stat in football in the NFL right now. I mean, how is that a thing? That can't be real. 3 points. No, not 14 points. 3 points. Let me say it again. The 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have a 1-29 record when trailing by 3 plus points entering the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what this team is. If they're not up, if they're not ahead, like we've seen the story before. It's like we're just like, "Oh," I said it I think on one of my reaction videos after the game, or I said it on a live on Instagram after the game. When the 49ers are up 10-0, in my mind, I believe 10-0, I guess it's 1-30 now after yesterday. In my mind, when the San Francisco 49ers have a 10-point lead, I look at it as 0-0. I'm not excited about 10-point leads. 10-point leads don't give me confidence. Uh, the Denver Broncos have signed Marlon Mack off the 49ers practice squad. So, thanks for everything, Marlon Mack. He is now a Denver Bronco. So, Marlon Mack has been banished to the Shadow Realm. Again, I don't think the 49ers are too worried about that. But that's just what happened just now. So Marlon Mack will be on the Broncos active roster from here on out. And his time with the San Francisco 49ers is over. Never given an opportunity to really play with the team. So, not that big of a deal, I guess. But if your name isn't Jeff Wilson and you're a running back, you're not getting an opportunity in this offense. Oh, I guess unless your name's CMC as well. So, uh, not hard to miss what you never had. You know what I mean? Let me make a quick post. So the Broncos have signed 49ers running back Marlon Mack off the team's practice squad. post, and one more. And post. Okay. Adriana, I'm glad we feel the same. Um, the energy pregame was electric. It was one of the most electric pregames I've been to. Actually, I think it was the most electric pregame I've been to. Fans got there early. Fans were excited. The first quarter hype was tangible. You could feel it. Levi's was loud. They were ready. The fan base was ready to go. The 49ers were not. And that's the toughest part. They looked ready to go. 10-0 run. The field goal, though, you're like, oof. The field goal? Yikes. That might come back to bite us. But they started out okay. Levi's was hyped. After that, oh no. God. It's gross. Gross. Yes, 100%. First quarter was litty. After that was not litty. Not litty. Not litty at all. Um so I don't know. We're at the show where we're at the point of the show where we continue to talk about the issues that occurred, or we could talk about how we look forward. So I'll leave it up to you guys. We're an interactive show. I want to hear from you. What do you want to talk about? Do you want to continue to talk? I've kind of skimming and kind of going over kind of at a, clearly I'm at a psychological level with this team right now. And I think that's something that needs to be corrected first. I'm at a vibe. They need to get some they need to burn some incense or something. They need to there's some juju hanging around. But a lot of people are saying looking forward. So let's look forward a little bit then. Let's look forward. The 49ers still have an opportunity to get back on track. Third and 3 and 4. 3 and 4. It's not over. That's the beauty. It's not over. There's room to get this back on track. There's room to gel. There's room to get it going. But it's got to be everyone at the same time. You can't have 80% executing on every single play. Whether it's the O-line miscues, quarterback miscues, coaching miscues, wide receiver miscues, tight end miscues. At one point, the entire offense and or defense needs to be working at 100% play in, play out, or any given down. So there's still hope. And let's face it, the Rams, they're just as beat up as the 49ers, if not more. The Rams, you know, they got a they got really messed up offensive line, and they're coming off a bye. So they've had time to sit back and chill a little bit. And they're going to probably have some fresh legs coming into this game. 49ers going to going down to Levi South, and we know this team plays well in Levi South. So there's going to be an opportunity there. And if this 49ers defense can get back on track, and again, the reason why I don't think you put Eric Armstead on injured reserve is because you think he can be back for the Rams game. So if Eric Armstead can return against the Rams, that's going to be a massive boost and can really change the complexion of the defense by getting interior pressure up front. So The 49ers need Eric Armstead right now in the worst way. So that's the hope, is the reason why you don't put him on IR. You don't put him on IR because you expect him to be back against the Rams before the bye. So if the 49ers get this win against the Rams, they're 4-4. They're still undefeated in division. That would be the sweep of the Rams. So they'll own any tiebreaker over the Rams. So that's where you want to be. So there's still optimism moving forward, and you should be able to beat the Rams because they're not a good team right now. They aren't. Even though Van Jefferson just got designated for return, they're not a good team right now. So if the 49ers play down to their level, then the conversations after next week are going to be brutal. Going to be real brutal. So still hope. That's the thing. This is the reason why this is going to be the therapy episode, is because we're just kind of working through our emotions. Like, we can't pretend like yesterday was good. It wasn't. And on multiple levels, offense, special teams, and defense, there's failures on all sides, and including coaching. I think coaching is failing this team right now as well. Because when you have as many weapons as they do, regardless if your quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo or not, I don't think that's a good enough excuse for why this team isn't up to speed. Blocking, quarterback play, wide receiver play, running back play, defensive play, cornerbacks, linebackers, Greenlaw goes down, DFF, couldn't tackle anything, couldn't stop anything, couldn't get off blocks. It's just brutal. Oh, that's rough. I'm sorry to hear that, Joyce. Joyce says, my canopy got stolen after the tailgate. I need to trauma dump. Well, if you need a trauma dump, we're here for you. This is a safe space. Again, you can be upset at this team, but it's a safe space for us to vent, voice our frustrations, get them out our system, so that Tuesday moving forward, we're back on track to getting to the right spot. Because yesterday after the game, I did my hit on Cron 4. So I did my Cron 4 interview. And it's not positive. We're talking about, who's to blame? Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy Garoppolo, like, we're talking about that type of stuff. And, I did my reaction video. I did a live on Instagram. And I live an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes away from the stadium now. So it takes me a long time to get home. And I normally come home and go do a live after that. But after that game, I just went to go have dinner. I went to this awesome spot, had massive TVs, has just it was actually a really cool restaurant. And they had Warriors on, they had Miami Dolphins versus the Pittsburgh, and I think they had some hockey on these big massive screens. I'm just sitting there, eating my food, decompressing, and just watching the Warriors ball. And I'm just like, I'm a Warriors fan, so I'm like, the Warriors used to be a really bad team. They figured it out. And again, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, they weren't all world beaters right out the gate. They had to develop and turn into these things, and kind of, it took some time. The Warriors tried to trade Steph, but the team they tried to trade him to didn't want him, so they traded Monte Ellis instead. So I look at that team that was in that situation, It's kind of what the 49ers feel like right now. It's like they have good players. They have players that are capable, but there's something missing. Is that coaching? Because you go from Mark Davis, or not Mark Davis, what's his name? Mark Jackson. You go from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, all of a sudden everything changes. The vibe changes, the mentality changes, the style changes. Players remain the same, right? For the most part, the core remained the same. But you go from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, all of a sudden, you're seeing the best out of these guys. You're seeing the execution. You're seeing the movement. You're seeing the way everything kind of opened up. And so that's why right now, today, we could talk a lot about the players. Right now, I think it's fair to talk about Kyle. And again, I like Kyle a lot. I don't think Kyle's a perfect coach. I think in the past he's proven to build amazing staffs and have those around him, but I don't know if he necessarily has that right now. So someone's saying, "Are you saying that we need a new head coach?" No. I'm saying we could talk about all the players all we want till we're blue in the face. But I think right now we got to look at Kyle. Kyle's got to figure this out. This is on him to figure it out, to get this moving in the right direction. I think Kyle has to put faith in his players to get this done. I don't know if he does that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I have a lot of emotions. I have a lot of feelings. Just, I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. And I think that's fair to say. So, a lot of people want to dump on Jimmy Garoppolo, and rightfully so. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been playing, lights out football, but there's a reason why, again, Kyle Shanahan moved on from Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is not supposed to be on the football team right now. He's not supposed to be here. But they felt something inside of them felt that they needed Jimmy Garoppolo this year. So I know, we want to look forward, like, oh, Trey gets back. I'm really excited for Trey to get back. But the guy who's going to be coaching Trey next year felt like they needed Jimmy Garoppolo this year. What message is that? What message is that for the future? That the guy who's going to be developing Trey Lance in his future felt that he needed Jimmy Garoppolo back on the roster. So, I don't know, man. A lot of questions, a lot of bad feelings. I'm frustrated. Normally, it normally takes me a lot to get frustrated, but I'm pretty damn frustrated right now. I don't think this is 49ers football. I don't think this team is performing to the level that they're capable of. I don't think that the 49ers are where they should be. I don't think the 49ers are performing at an acceptable level based on the talent that they have on this roster. Does that mean they're screwed? No. Does it mean they're dead in the water? No. Does it mean they can't get there? It just means right now, as we stand, losing the way they did against the Chiefs, losing the way they did against the Falcons, not good. Losing the way they did against the Broncos, losing the way they did against the Chicago Bears, it's not necessarily putting a ton of faith into the people who support you the most. And at what point do we start asking legitimate questions? Hey, they're pushing me. You guys know me. I try to keep it a certain respectful level, respectfully. Everything I'm saying, hashtag respectfully. But they lose against the Rams. I don't know what version you're gonna see of me. I don't know what version you're gonna see of me. Uh, because they're pushing me to that level. Because I don't think this is, we talk about it all the time, man. Try to keep it optimistic, try to keep it positive moving forward. Like, there's a silver lining to things and how this team can improve. But let's face it, let's call it what it is. It's not acceptable right now. It's not. It's just not good ball. This is not good ball. Definition of bad ball. With too many weapons, with too much talent. It's just not. And if you go down to LA and lose to an inferior team, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. And if this team misses the playoffs this year, I think there's going to be a lot of questions. I don't want to call Kyle Shanahan Mark Jackson. I don't. I don't want Kyle Shanahan to be that coach that is building a roster for the next coach. I don't. Kyle Shanahan should be the coach. He should be the 49ers Steve Kerr. But if the San Francisco 49ers miss the playoffs this year, we're going to be calling Kyle Shanahan Mark Jackson. That's just how it's going to play. And that's it's unfortunate. I don't want it to be like that. I don't want that to be the outcome. But right now, if this team isn't executing, they're not playing with the lead, I don't know, man. It's weird. And I think this is when we take a global view, this is what it feels like to me. It feels like there's a regression. Feels like there's a regression. Who's at fault for regressions? Taking steps backwards. 6 years, same offensive mind, same play caller, same scheme architect, and the offense is always a step behind. Even if you go back to the 2019 team, the 2019 team won a lot with defense and a lot with the 49ers just making, maintaining drives. They weren't winning because of the offense. They were winning because the offense wasn't making mistakes. Dustin says, "Do you see a world where Trey Lance isn't starting for the Niners next year? I hope he does get to play." I would imagine Trey Lance starts next year. I think that would be weird if he didn't. But again, I thought it would be weird if Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be starting games for the 49ers this year. So I'm beyond the point of thinking that anything isn't possible. So if you told me next year Trey Lance isn't starting, I'd have to tell you I could believe it. I could, because A lot of the things that I thought were unbelievable, the 49ers have executed and they've done. So I'm at this point of covering this team, I'm not in that place where I think anything is impossible. I don't think that would be the road to go. Again, I still believe one of the fatal flaws of this organization is not starting Trey Lance as a rookie, not allowing Trey Lance to get those much needed reps, working through what he needed to work through as a rookie, um, and just live and die with his mistakes so that going into this year with a loaded roster, Trey Lance had built up a callus to getting hit, uh, more proficient in throwing and running and playing at the NFL level. But I get it. They wanted to win football games. That's why they brought Jimmy Garoppolo back last year, and that's why they brought him back this year. And that's why I've always been extremely concerned about Kyle Shanahan being the one to develop a rookie quarterback. I don't think Kyle's the one to develop a rookie quarterback. I don't think that's his strong suit. He wants to win football games. Kyle Shanahan doesn't have patience. If there's anything that I know about Kyle Shanahan, there's a reason why every single receiver that enters his wide receiver room enters a doghouse. He doesn't I don't believe Kyle aids. He's not the arm around your shoulder coach. Hey, you messed up on this one. We're going to get him on the next one. No, he's that guy like you messed up my play that go sit in the corner. Like that's, and I don't think that brings out development. Now, you have to be a certain mindset. You have to be a certain type of player to be able to come through that. That's why you look at Debo. You're starting to see Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Some guys are able to manage that and be receptive to it. But how much do you think Jimmy Garoppolo's been jacked in his brain from getting screamed at from Kyle Shanahan? Like that's not how you develop players. We know enough about sports psychology now that listen, being a hard ass might suit you, but in the long run, it doesn't suit the rest. And if you're into development, you have to be able to build uh, and uplift. Yes, you can be hard and you can be critical, but if you don't have the other redeeming quality of being able to also uplift with your critiques, and all you are is you're not doing what I asked, you're not doing what I need you to do, and because you're not doing those things, I'm going to disregard you. There's a reason why there's always players in the doghouse. I don't like that. And you take that quality and you put it into Trey Lance. Trey Lance has talked about it. John Lynch has talked about it. How to deal with Kyle Shanahan. Oh, we know Kyle's just a hard ass. Don't take it too personally. You know, he's just going to come down your road when you make a mistake. Don't take it personally. At a certain point, when are we going to put our hand up and say, Coach, you need to adjust, especially with younger athletes? This isn't the 1970s. This isn't my way or the highway anymore. I get it. It's pro football. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Coach is going to yell at you. Hey, I played on a lot of teams where my coaches yelled at me. But guess what? The best coaches that I ever played under knew how to put their arm around me and say, hey, we screwed up here. We didn't do this right here, but this is how you do it. And it's okay. You're going to get them on the next one. Wash it, flush it, move forward. But when your coach that you're looking for guidance is screaming at your face, telling you're a piece of shit, I don't know if that's going to really build a ton of confidence. So again, go back to the 2020 Week 5 game against the Dolphins. The reason why I knew the Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo relationship was severed, it was because of the way they were speaking to each other on the sideline. Kyle was screaming at Jimmy, screaming at him. And the type of screaming where you're like, "Oh, there's more to this than that's just not a coach coaching someone up." He's pissed. I was like, "That's it." I'll talk about the story all the time. Week 5, 2020 against the Dolphins. It's a terrible game. The Brian Allen game. It's a terrible game. But they kept showing Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan on the sideline. Kyle just ripping Jimmy. That day, I was like, I'm gonna start scouting quarterback. I'm gonna start scouting quarterbacks. Week 5, 2020 was the day that I started. And again, it's stuck in my brain because it was such a profound moment. It was such a profound moment. I was like, start scouting quarterbacks. What happened? With the first days of the offseason in 2021, 49ers are rumored to be going after every quarterback under the sun. So again, I'm getting to my breaking point. If you haven't noticed, I love Kyle. I think Kyle's capable, but I don't think Kyle's perfect, and I think his imperfections are starting to show. And at a certain point, it's going to be really hard to defend. So unless they can kind of get these things back on track, it's going to be really hard to defend Kyle. It's going to be really hard. It is. I don't think, I don't think Kyle. I think Kyle's a good schemer. I think he's a good play caller. I think I don't think Kyle is good at developing talent because I don't think he's the one developing talent. When I look at George Kittle's development, I look at John Embry because guess who George Kittle credits with his development? John Embry. When I look at Fred Warner and I look at his development, I look at D'Amico Ryans. You know what I mean? And when you look at the wide receivers that Kyle has just spit out, it's unbelievable. I think he's had over like 20 wide receivers. Anyways, obviously, I'm in a poor spot right now. I try to tell everyone. I tried to tell everyone, and this isn't speaking to you guys here, but Mike McDaniels was the coach. Like when you listen to Mike McDaniels talk about coaching philosophy, Mike McDaniels talks about the player. He talks about the human element side of it. He talks about relating to players, making them allowing them to understand the why, allowing them to be a part of the conversation. Mike McDaniels is a phenomenal coach. The 49ers 100% are missing Mike McDaniel. I said it from day one. I said it from day one. I said it from last year when the offense started working. I didn't credit Kyle. I credited Mike McDaniels. I was like, no, no, no. Everyone wanted Mike McDaniel fired in the press conferences every time he would get up there. I'm like, you guys are tripping. This dude is so smart. This dude is so underrated. 49ers are missing him right now. They are, and he's the polar opposite of Kyle. When you look at Sean McVay is the polar opposite of Kyle. When you look at LaFleur, he's the polar opposite of Kyle. Kyle's an old school he has an old school mentality. He has the mentality of his dad. And they just, you don't do it, you don't execute what they want. And again, hey, honesty can be perceived in a bunch of different ways, which is always the thing that you hear the most. They don't sugarcoat anything. They tell you exactly what's going on and how they feel, which I guess isn't a bad thing. But I think there's more to it. All right. I'm going to end my Kyle rant because I'm tired. This team makes me tired. Makes me tired. And we're reaching that point. We're just reaching that point right now. All right. Back. Get it. Let me dial it back in here. Um, because this is a tough loss. It was a tough loss. Tough execution. So this is how I see it. With all that being said, with all me venting some frustrations and venting the things that I perceive, again, I'm not saying this in a way where I believe I'm correct necessarily. All I'm saying is I have my perceptions from the outside looking in. I can't accurately define Kyle Shanahan because I'm not around Kyle Shanahan. I'm I'm just not. I can tell you what I think from the outside looking in, but the only person or people who can give you a true honest assessment of Kyle are the people inside the building who work with him day in and day out, and experience it. And I'm not one of those people. So all I can do is provide an outside perspective and what I've seen from everything. And I think there's room for improvement, but we'll see. We'll see how it continues to progress. But it's getting to that level with the fan base. That's all I can say. Because I know this fan base expects a certain level of achievement when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers. And right now, the 49ers are underperforming whatever way you want to look at it. They're just not performing. Whether it's coaching, whether it's play calling, whether it's execution, it's just not there. And I think when we look at the roster, we see a roster that's capable of winning. We see a roster that has a lot of talent. Trent Williams, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings is talented. Um, you now add Christian McCaffrey, uh, Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, Nick Bosa, Charles Ament. Like they're guys, they're dogs on this roster, and they have depth. So tough Mondays. It's a tough Monday for sure. Maybe I'm just extra salty because I was at the game yesterday and I got to witness it in person. But yeah, I'm a little salty today. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to bring it back. Hello? Do you see me? Let me know in the chat if you can see me. There we go. Sheesh. We had a McDonald's Wi-Fi moment. Maybe Kyle cut the stream. He cut my internet. Oh man, shout out to everyone who stuck around. I mean, we had about 330 people in here. We're still at about 200. So we kept a good amount of you guys around. So shout out to the real ones who stuck around. We got it back. That was that was weird. We definitely had a McDonald's Wi-Fi throwback. I don't know if you guys remember. Back when we first started this thing, I had the worst internet connection in the game. Um, had the worst internet connection in the game, and was a consistent problem. And it felt like a little bit of back in the days when I was when I was in the garage studio. Shout out to everyone sticking around, man. Oh, good times. Good times, good times, good times. But yeah, let's move forward. Let's move forward. Shout out to everyone sticking through. Shout out to everyone sticking through. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys. Normally I listen to you guys vent. I think today was my day to vent. I needed to vent a little bit. I feel better already. Um, and so Breezy got hacked. Did he really? If he did, that sucks. Man, if he really did get hacked, that sucks. Big time. Oh, he has a new page up too. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, clearly this is a sign. Clearly this is a sign that oh, we got a new member. Shout out Michael. Michael saw the McDonald's Wi-Fi's. I could probably relate. I could relate. I could relate. So shout out Michael for joining the SDS. Appreciate you, my guy. Especially considering we're having the technical difficulties that we're having. Um, Brad's getting censored. Yeah, the one day, like I kind of just like I kind of vent a little bit, right? Stream gets cut. we keep it level-headed here. This it's not on brand. I'm not gonna be someone who's gonna have a bunch of knee-jerk reactions, especially to football. I understand football is a difficult, very difficult game, and there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of context and nuance that can be missed, and a lot of people react to the lack of context and nuance. And so I try not to be one of those people. I try not to, I try to support my team as best I can. But today was a day. It's just ugly, man. It's just ugly yesterday. Those damn kids on Fortnite. Get off the Fortnite. Get off the Fortnite. I'm happy to announce that I banned my kids from Fortnite. They have not played Fortnite in probably a solid like 5 months. Banned it. I said, "You know what? I love you guys too much. I love you guys too much." I've gamed my whole life. I love video games. I do. I'm a big ass kid at heart. But I also understand, there's levels to this. There's levels to this. And I was like, you guys are probably playing with some weirdos online. I was like, nah, you're too young. I can't have it. Can't have it. Uh Someone said their brains have probably I could see their brain size decreasing. Like I could see it. I could see the shifts in like attitude. Like I was like, oh hell no. I was like, nope. Oh boy, I got the spinning wheel of death. We're coming to an end, man. We're coming to again an end really close here. I got another spinning wheel of death. Um, so and we're already it's 120. We're off the rails big time already. Um, so this is what today will be. Today will be my venting session. I'm gonna watch the tape. I haven't watched it yet. So I was at the game. I didn't watch it on the broadcast. So, you know, watching in stadium is always gonna be a different vibe. So I'm gonna rewatch the tape, try to get a better sense of it. Again, when we look at the last two games, the vibes have just been off. Um, just not where it needs to be. And there's plenty of room for improvement outside of just getting beat by the Kansas City Chiefs. Just outside of that, just outside of not good execution, there's something else there. And we're not going to beat it up too much anymore. I think I've been able to get my frustrations out. And again, and this is and I want to preface, my thoughts of Kyle today, which haven't been positive. I like Kyle. I still like Kyle. I still have hope for Kyle, and I still hope Kyle can prove everything that I have said about him wrong. I don't want to be right on those things. Like I don't want to be right in that Kyle struggles in developing players. I don't want to be right in that. Trust me. I don't want my head coach to have that trait. So hopefully I'm wrong. I will like I don't need to be right all the time. I don't. In fact, I'd rather be proved wrong in this situation. I'd rather be proved wrong because the 49ers have a young, talented quarterback that needs to be developed. He needs to. And I hope my coach, who's in charge of that, will be able to do so. So I don't want to be right on that. I don't. But I think we can all say our patience levels. And again, I like to think of myself as one of the more patient people out here when it comes to talking about San Francisco 49ers football. But I think you can sense today that my patience is weaning. it is becoming thin. And because you know what the definition of insanity is, right? I think we all understand. The definition of insanity is doing the same exact things and expecting different results. And kind of right now, I feel like the 49ers are in that mode. Kind of feels like we're doing the same exact things, kind of expecting different results, whether it's an injection of talent here, this, that, or the other thing. Obviously, the 49ers made a lot of adjustments last year. They had to move Debo Samuel to wide back. Again, that's an example of making adjustments on the fly. But we also understand Mike McDaniel played a huge part in Debo playing wide back. And I think they credit him for kind of that adjustment. I think Debo would credit Mike McDaniel for that adjustment. I really do think Debo wanted to get traded to go play with Mike McDaniel this offseason. I really do think that's what it's all about. Because if you guys remember, Debo Samuel goes and has lunch with Mike McDaniel and then requests a trade right after that. So, just hang on, folks. Just hang on. We'll figure this out. We'll figure this one out. All for it says, I am the only one who thought CMC would get the ball on 3rd and 2 before half. Run down time and keep Mahomes off field. Momentum for fans and team at half. Am I the only one who thought CMC would get the ball on 3 and 2 before half, run down time, and keep Mahomes off the field? Momentum for fans and team at half. I believe I know what you're saying. I mean, the 49ers got momentum because the Chiefs didn't score. They had a touchdown wiped off the board and they missed a field goal. I can't remember exactly that drive that you're speaking of. I can't remember exactly. So I apologize. But the point being, I think that you're making is extend the drive and don't give Patrick Mahomes another. There we go. Thank you. He's saying, run the damn ball. Well said. Well said. Run the damn ball. I like it. Run the damn ball. I also, since, well, I'm going to get off here soon before I put my foot in my mouth anymore, with just being emotional and just being frustrated and, kind of allowing those things to take over a little bit. I'm not happy with the offensive line. I think, I've made a bit of a reputation for myself as, kind of being someone who knows how to evaluate offensive line. And I truly do believe I know how to. And that's something that is a strong suit of mine. I do believe I understand offensive line play a lot better than a lot of people. And I can say I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, and I think this might be on Chris Forster. I can't stand this rotation. I cannot stand this freaking Daniel Brunskill rotating at left guard, right guard, everywhere but center. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Again, back to developing. If you're trying to develop a young player in Spencer Burford, I don't think rotating him in and out with a guy who's proven to be a starter and proven to play at a high level, at right guard, is going to build confidence in him. But the way I perceive it is that the 49ers put in Spencer Burford a little bit too early. Regardless of the talent that Spencer Burford has, the speed of the game and the small nuances of the game, he's still working on. But you made that decision to put him in. Either take him out or keep him in. Stop this back and forth because I don't know. What are you trying to prove? Either put in Brunskill or leave in Spencer Burford. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me as someone who has some experience playing offensive line. What are we doing? Why? Unless you can give me an explanation of to why you're rotating these guys out. Like, listen, offensive line isn't like playing D line. You do not rotate offensive linemen. You just don't. Um, and why is it happening now? I don't get it. I don't understand it. It drives me insane. It drives me absolutely nuts. All for it says, I was talking about the drive after the muff punt. Oh, got you. Got you. Got you. Got you. So going into score, you were talking about. Yeah. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. I can't wait to go watch the tape. I can't wait to go watch the tape because I need answers, and I don't have them right now. I don't have answers to why this team looked the way they did and why they're doing what they're doing. I just don't. And the offensive line, they're not perfect, but I can't stand the way this offensive line has been managed since training camp. I think that's one of the things that we're kind of seeing right now. The reason why there's no continuity up front, the reason why the offensive line is still not gelling, you can trace this back to training camp. What was I saying all of training camp? What the hell are they doing on the offensive line? Why are they rotating Brunskill at center? The what the 49ers did with the offensive line this training camp was one of the most egregious things I've ever seen as a former offensive lineman. So let me recap for you if you forgot. The only mainstays with and then let me even take a step further back. This is how the 49ers operate team periods. 3 reps with the starters, 3 reps with the second team, 3 reps with the third team. So every time the starters go up, you have 3 reps. So this is how it would be. First starting line goes up. It's Banks Burford, always with the first unit. But every other series, it was the first unit. It was either Brunskill or Brendel. So every time they'd flush through a cycle of 3, there's a new center. Every practice, you didn't know if you were going to get Trent Williams out there. You didn't know if you're going to get Mike McGlinchey out there. So they're constantly rotating either Jalen Moore or Colton McKivitz, and then they were swapping them sides. So the entire training camp, they were constantly shifting the offensive line. They didn't just pick one and stick with it. And they're still doing it. And it's driving me bonkers. And I still think that's why they're a partial reason why they're disjointed up front. That's why. I don't think there's continuity there. And they haven't allowed the continuity to build. It's weird. It is weird to me. Again, they might have reasons that I don't know that go above my head. They know this team better than I do because they actually work with these guys every single day, but sheesh. Cynthia says, great rant. Can Kyle find someone to replace McDaniel? Is there anyone else in the building who can pull Kyle's coattails? Well, that's the thing. Chris Forster has replaced Mike McDaniels, and you couldn't put a more polar opposite person than Mike McDaniels in that role. You could not. Chris Forster will like, and again, I have no ill will against Brendel. I think Brendel's been okay. I think they could be better at center. I don't think he's been terrible. I don't think he's been non-startable. I don't think he's been atrocious. But I do think Brendel has some weaknesses, and they get exposed from time to time. Chris Forster will not say one bad thing about Brendel. It's weird. I think Forster is an interesting coach. But I don't know. Again, I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I'm just it's been a long day. It's been a long day for sure. Uh is there anyone else in the building who can pull Kyle's coattails? Not that I'm familiar with. Not that I'm familiar with. Uh yeah, no, not that I'm familiar with. I mean, you have like Bobby Slowick, and you have what's his name? The other one, Bobby Slowick and Clay Kubiak. Feels like Clay Kubiak is going to be one of those like kind of next up and coming assistants that could eventually be a head coach in the NFL, but he's still an assistant quarterback coach, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough, I'm not in the building, so I can't speak to it 100%. But tough game, tough loss. And again, it's how they lost that made it so tough. Um, just lack of continuity everywhere. Uh, just lack of continuity everywhere yesterday from coaching down. Just not great. Not great, not great. So a lot of new faces on that coaching staff on the offensive side. Could that be part of the reason why they're having issues? I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, let me get to the tape. Let me calm down. Let me get out of my emotions for a second. And let me try to recalibrate. Let me get into the tape. Let me kind of like chill a little because I do think I am a little bit emotional. Hey, appreciate you, Jesus, aka Jose, and everyone else, for allowing me to kind of deal with and process this. I definitely do think I started spicy, and that wasn't my intention at all. I just think when it came time to speak, because I didn't do a live yesterday. I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm sure, whatever. I didn't do a post game live yesterday because I was just numb from what I watched, you know? And I've definitely been processing some of these emotions and feelings for a couple, for a couple hours. And I started speaking, and the things that came out of my mouth came out of my mouth. So we're gonna watch the tape. We know how these weeks work. Um, we know how these weeks work. Uh, we are going to watch the tape. We'll kind of process it. Kind of, the tape is always the great equalizer. Maybe the tape is going to reveal to me it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And there are, again, more corrections to be made. And if those corrections are made, then those things will get back on track and there's hope and all those types of things. And again, I think th wait, I think this sentence, the first sentence is the first one I read. Mike says, "It's always about the chemistry." Right now, I think that's a great way to quantify it. The chemistry right now is just not great. The chemistry, the unquantifiable, the unmeasurable, the chemistry. We talk about chemistry within teams and things like that. Like the chemistry is kind of what I think I'm speaking to. The intangibles of this team are off. The the unmeasurable things of this team are off. Um, that's where I think a lot of the problems lie here. Yanks are a good example, right? They can buy all the great players, but they don't win much during the modern era. Yeah, because I think there are certain glue guys that bring things together. Um, and we'll see if we have those guys in the building. We're really going to figure that out, and we're going to find out. So yeah, not a good performance, starting with the coach all the way down to whoever from the 53rd man on the roster. Coach to 53rd wasn't great. Chemistry's off, vibes off, and hopefully they can get it back on track. The tape will reveal that it was bad. I think you're right. I think you're right, but I got to do it anyways. So we'll see. I may or may not do some film breakdowns coming up here in the future. Depends on how much we want to suffer from this loss. I can't believe I've been on for an hour 40. I think that speaks to I think I have been a little emotional today. So again, I appreciate you guys vibing with me, riding with me. Again, I try not to be doom and gloom. I try not to be pessimistic and look through and for the negativities and things. I try to find the optimism. I try to find the silver linings. But today I had to call it what it was. It was ugly. It wasn't good. And there's something untangible, I think, in play. And that needs to be figured out. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to kind of go on my little rants here or there. But I promise you we'll get it back on track because you already know we try to keep good vibes here at SDS as part of our mission statement here. But hey, every dog has his day, and had to get the therapy session through. I think we did a decent job at it. Hopefully, you guys had an opportunity to kind of air your grievances, and we'll kind of get back on track. Big week against the Rams. Time for these guys. They're going to have to flush it, and they're going to have to show up. No more excuses. No more excuses. Can't do it 3 weeks in a row. 3 weeks becomes a trend, and we don't want to see those trends. So I appreciate everyone for tapping in. Smash that like button on your way out, and a lot to look forward to this week. Big division game coming up. Appreciate you guys. I'm out of here. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to